What separates extraordinary people from ordinary people? Why do some individuals rise above the crowd, while others spend their entire lives trapped in the same patterns? Why do some people build wealth, influence, knowledge, and freedom while others remain stuck at the bottom despite having access to the same information? The answer is not luck. It is not talent. And it is not intelligence alone. The answer is thinking. More specifically, the level at which you think. Most people spend their lives reacting. They react to news. They react to social media. They react to criticism. They react to circumstances. Their emotions control their decisions. Their environment controls their actions. And because they are constantly reacting, they rarely stop long enough to think deeply. This is where the gap begins. The average person focuses on immediate problems. The exceptional person focuses on long-term consequences. The average person asks, "What do I want today?" The exceptional person asks, "What kind of life am I building 5 years from now?" That single difference changes everything. Imagine two people starting at the same point. Both have similar opportunities. Both have similar resources. Both have similar abilities. The first person spends every day chasing entertainment. The second person spends every day improving knowledge, skills, and discipline. At first, the difference is invisible. A week passes, nothing changes. A month passes, still nothing dramatic happens. But years later, the gap becomes enormous. One person has grown. The other has remained the same. The difference was never talent. The difference was thinking. Higher-level thinkers understand that every action creates consequences. Every decision creates a future. Every habit shapes an identity. They do not focus only on what feels good now. They focus on what creates value later. This is why many people remain stuck at the bottom. They optimize for comfort instead of growth. They choose entertainment over education, distraction over focus, excuses over responsibility, immediate pleasure over long-term success. The world today makes this easier than ever. At any moment, you can open your phone and escape reality. Endless videos, endless notifications, endless distractions. Entire industries compete for your attention every second. And while there is nothing wrong with entertainment, problems begin when entertainment becomes a lifestyle. Many people know more about celebrities than they know about their own goals. They spend more time consuming content than creating value. And then they wonder why their lives are not changing. One lesson worth considering: many people create valuable ideas, skills, or digital products, but never learn how to bring them to the world. Creating value is important, but learning how to communicate and market that value is equally important. If you've ever wanted to learn how successful creators market digital products online, you'll find a practical guide in the description that explains the process step by step. Now let's continue. Higher thinking requires something most people avoid: solitude, silence, reflection. The greatest thinkers in history spent time alone with their thoughts. They questioned assumptions. They challenged common beliefs. They examined problems deeply. Most people never do this. They accept whatever the crowd believes. They follow trends. They copy opinions. They repeat ideas they never truly examined. But higher-level thinkers ask different questions. Instead of asking, "What is everyone doing?" they ask, "What is actually true?" Instead of asking, "What is popular?" they ask, "What is valuable?" Instead of asking, "What do people think?" they ask, "What do the facts say?" This ability to think independently becomes a massive advantage, because society often rewards conformity in the short term, but it rewards independent thinking in the long term. Every major innovation, every successful company, every breakthrough idea, every great achievement began with someone willing to think differently. Another characteristic of higher-level thinkers is responsibility. They refuse to blame circumstances for everything. They understand that life is not always fair. Bad things happen. Unexpected problems appear. Obstacles exist. But they also understand that blaming circumstances rarely improves the situation. Responsibility creates power, because when you take responsibility, you regain control. The moment you say, "My future is my responsibility," you stop waiting for rescue. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. And you start building. Most people wait. Higher-level thinkers act. Most people complain. Higher-level thinkers solve problems. Most people focus on obstacles. Higher-level thinkers focus on opportunities. This mindset creates a completely different life experience. The truth is that society often operates on lower levels of thinking because lower thinking is easier. It requires less effort, less discipline, less self-awareness. But easy choices rarely produce extraordinary results. Higher thinking requires patience. It requires learning. It requires self-control. And most importantly, it requires the courage to think for yourself. As you move through life, remember this. Your future will not be determined only by what you do. It will be determined by how you think. Because every action begins as a thought. Every habit begins as a thought. Every success begins as a thought. And when you elevate your thinking, you begin to elevate your entire life. The problem is not that most people lack potential. The problem is that most people never discover how much potential they actually have. They spend their lives operating far below their true capabilities, not because they are incapable, but because they never develop the mindset required to unlock what is already inside them. One of the biggest differences between low-level thinking and high-level thinking is the relationship with discomfort. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid challenging goals. They avoid failure. They avoid uncertainty. And while this may feel safe, it creates an invisible prison. Because growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Every skill you've ever learned required discomfort. Every achievement required discomfort. Every transformation required discomfort. The strongest people are not those who avoid challenges. They are the people who learn to embrace them. Higher-level thinkers understand that temporary discomfort often creates long-term freedom, while lower-level thinkers sacrifice their future to avoid temporary discomfort today. Think about physical fitness, reading, building a business, learning a language, saving money, developing discipline. None of these things feel easy at first, yet they create enormous rewards over time. Another reason society remains stuck at the bottom is because many people underestimate the power of small daily decisions. They believe success comes from dramatic moments, massive breakthroughs, life-changing opportunities. But in reality, most success is built through repetition. The person who reads 10 pages every day may not notice immediate results, but after a year, they have consumed knowledge most people never will. The person who exercises consistently may not transform overnight, but years later, the difference becomes obvious. The person who improves 1% each day eventually becomes unrecognizable compared to the person who never started. Higher-level thinkers play the long game. They understand that life is a series of compound effects. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. This is why patience becomes a superpower. Most people quit too early. They expect immediate rewards, immediate recognition, immediate success. When those rewards don't appear quickly, they stop. But the greatest rewards in life often arrive much later than expected. The tree does not grow the day after the seed is planted. The foundation must be built before the building can rise. The same principle applies to success. One lesson worth remembering: many people create valuable digital products, courses, guides, or ideas, and become frustrated when sales don't happen immediately. The truth is that creating something valuable is only part of the process. Learning how to present it, market it, and reach the right audience is what creates momentum. If you're interested in understanding how digital products are marketed successfully, you'll find a practical guide in the description that explains the process step by step. Now let's continue. Higher-level thinkers also understand the importance of attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable assets you possess. Whatever captures your attention eventually shapes your life. If your attention constantly belongs to distractions, your future will reflect distraction. If your attention belongs to growth, learning, and meaningful goals, your future will reflect those choices. This is why successful people protect their attention so carefully. They understand that where focus goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, results appear. Many people spend years trying to change their circumstances without first changing their thinking. But circumstances often follow mindset. When you think differently, you make different decisions. Different decisions create different habits. Different habits create different outcomes. This is why transformation always begins internally, before it becomes visible externally. Perhaps the most powerful lesson of all is this: you become what you repeatedly think about. If you constantly think about limitations, you begin to see limitations everywhere. If you constantly think about opportunities, you begin to notice opportunities others miss. Your mind acts like a filter, and that filter determines how you experience reality. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not always the smartest. They are often the people who refuse to limit themselves. They continue learning. They continue growing. They continue improving. Even when nobody is watching. Even when progress feels slow. Even when success seems distant. Because they understand something that most people never fully realize. Your life rises or falls to the level of your thinking. If you want a better future, elevate your standards. Elevate your habits. Elevate your environment. And above all, elevate your thinking. Because the highest levels of thinking do not simply change your ideas, they change your identity. And once your identity changes, your entire life begins to change with it. Thank you for listening.